My first guest tonight, let me tell you how we found out about her. We had a letter from her grandson, James Carson, who is an administrative assistant in the governor's office in Des Moines, Iowa. And he says, "Dear Mr. Carson, I don't usually write entertainers, but I was compelled to write when I learned that my 91-year-old grandma has decided to abstain from during Lent. She's in great shape for a 91-year-old. She's very active. She watches daytime soap operas, drives her friends to church, etc. I talked to my mom yesterday, and she told me that I would not believe what Grandma had given up for Lent. She is such a devout Catholic, I had to take her seriously. My mom told me that Grandma had given up watching your monologues for Lent. I nearly died, but it is the truth. And believe me, it is a sacrifice for her to do this." So we got in contact with her, and it took a little persuading. We invited her out here. Would you welcome, please? She is from Laurelville, Iowa, Mrs. Josephine Burke. Well, Mrs. Burke, I thank you for coming tonight.
Well, I appreciate the invitation.
It's nice to meet you. Where's Laurelville, Iowa? I was born in Iowa.
Well, I think I looked up the,
I was born in Corning, Iowa.
Uh-huh.
You're right.
And I think that's about 200 miles southwest of
Southwest
Laurelville.
of Laurelville.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's nice to have you here. Now, I understand when we called you, you initially,
right.
you initially were not too enthused about coming out and being on the show. Is that right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, I was in shock at first to hear anything about it at all.
Right.
And then...
You didn't know that your grandson had written this letter, did you?
I didn't know he had written a letter even.
Right.
And then I thought it was about the craziest thing I ever heard of. Johnny Carson's show.
You thought that was crazy, huh?
Well, crazy for me.
Yeah, well, we had to make more than one or two calls. What finally changed your mind?
Well, I don't know. All of my family wanted me to do it.
Right.
Wanted to come. And, I finally said I would.
Finally said, well, are you glad you came?
Yes, very glad.
I'm glad you came, too. Now, is it true that you actually gave up the monologue, watching the monologue, for Lent?
Yes, but I didn't mean for it to go public.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah, those things are supposed to be kind of confidential, aren't they? Yeah.
Right.
Well, anyway, you don't hold it against your grandson for writing a song. He thought it was kind of nice that you did that.
Well, I guess so.
Yeah. Now, he said you gave up the monologues because you watched the show and you enjoy the monologue.
Yes.
Was it tough to give up the monologues for Lent?
Well, I just made up my mind to do it, and I just did it.
Made up your mind to do it. You didn't stay
No,
up
I
one
didn't
night
think
and...
about it.
Huh?
No.
Didn't even do it one night, huh?
No, I didn't.
Now, how often do you watch The Tonight Show? You watch the show fairly often?
I've been watching it since you've been on, and I even watched you when you were on Who Do You Trust?
Who Do You Trust? That goes back to 1956.
Yeah, I think so.
And you watched that show?
Yes, I did.
Then you remember when I started The Tonight Show?
Well, when I knew Jack Parr was retiring, I thought Johnny Carson should be on that show.
You
He
did?
should be the host, yeah.
By golly, and here I am.
Yes, that's right.
And here you are. After all of that time. Do you watch the entire show?
Well, not very often.
Oh. Just the monologue?
And the monologue, and then if there are some particular guests on, I do watch it, the whole business.
Otherwise, if
Yeah.
you go to bed, huh?
I go to bed.
Yeah. Well, that's the story of my life. A few laughs and they split. And anyway, you sit here for a while. We have to do, as you know, if you watch the show, we have to stop every so often and do a commercial.
Yeah, I know.
Then we'll come back and chat some more, okay?
Okay.
All right, we'll be right back. With Mrs. Burke. Okay, we are back now. Like that music? We're back now. And if you just joined us, we're talking with Mrs. Josephine Burke from Laurelville, Iowa. That music's a little louder here in the studio than normally when you hear it at home, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Do you like Doc and his orchestra?
Very well, yeah.
Yeah.
He's dressed sort of naturally tonight.
Dressed kind of naturally tonight, yes. Yeah. He's kind of dressing down a little bit. He's rather flamboyant. Now,
Yeah.
in case you just joined us, Mrs. Burke gave up for Lent, at great sacrifice, watching the monologues on The Tonight Show. Were there any other things you considered giving up? I mean,
Oh.
some people give up drinking.
I don't do that
You don't
in the
drink.
first place.
All right, it's okay. Some people give up smoking.
I don't do
You
that.
don't
either.
smoke. Dancing?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. So you chose the monologues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I gave up candy and
Gave up
different things
candy?
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now that's for Lent goes for what, 40
40 days.
40 days?
From Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday.
That's right. Now this is the first show I have done since Easter. Did you hear tonight's monologue in the
Yes,
while
I
you were
did.
waiting?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Well, what do you think? Let him know. Come on. Now, come on. Mrs. Baker, you can be completely honest now. What you've been watching these for years. What do you think about tonight's monologue? Any jokes you liked? Any jokes you didn't like?
Well, I thought it was a kind of a joke about the bakers.
About the Bakers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I didn't like to have you talk about the condoms.
The condom. Yeah. No, yeah, those condom jokes. No, you're right. No, I can understand, and I respect your opinion. And when you were growing up in your day and age, that something was never discussed, right? Things like that.
That's right.
Yeah. Do you think television has gone too far sometimes in what they can talk about?
I do
Yeah.
a lot of things.
Jokes
I don't
about
like it
maybe sexual activity or
Yes.
something.
I don't like that at all.
Yeah. Well, we don't do too many of those.
No,
Yeah.
not very many.
So you liked the Baker joke? That was all right. And the other one. You
We've
like
been
that?
I've
Huh?
been doing so many of those quite often.
Well, they're in the news all the time, and I make fun about Doc's clothes occasionally. Is that okay?
Well, he looks like they look like he gets them from a foreign country or something.
That's right. Yes, and we've been trying to put a stop to that, Mrs. Burke. Trying to get him to buy American. Yeah. Now, your grandson said in his letter also that you used to let him stay up and watch me when he was a child?
Well, I shouldn't have done that. But I didn't know he was going to tell on me.
Yeah, he told everything. How old was he at that time?
Oh, I suppose 6 or 7.
6 or 7.
Yeah.
Well, that is pretty young to stay up that late, I guess. Of course, you get the show in Iowa at 10:30. At 10:30 at night. Where in the east and the west, it's 11:30. How big a city is Laurelville, Iowa?
Well, a population of about 500 or 520 or something
Right.
like that.
Did you live on a farm part of your life?
All the time.
All the time? Is it a working farm?
Oh, sure.
Yeah?
I have a renter that does the farm work.
Yeah.
So-
You still do any gardening or anything like that?
Well, yes, I plan to this year.
Yeah.
I didn't get to last year, but I plan to this year. A small garden.
Yeah. And you still drive your own car, I hear.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, are all the people out in Laurelville, are they watching tonight?
Well, I told them not to.
You told them not to. You know they're not going to listen to you. I bet they're all tuned in watching right now. What do you
They
bet?
said they wwere going to, but I said, please don't.
No. I think they would be very proud to see you here tonight from Laurelville. Huh? I really do. Anyway, you're a very sweet lady to accept our invitation. We thank you for coming out. It took us a little while to get you here. Are you glad you came now?
Yes, I am.
And I'll watch-
Everything has been great.
Been great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's nice. Well, and I'll watch those other jokes about that. I'll remember if I get one of those, I'll say, I better check with Mrs. Burke before I do this. Okay?
That's right.
Thank you for coming tonight. We enjoyed having you. We'll see you again. We'll be right back.